We're live here on YouTube and Facebook as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Hi, my name is Gina Lachey. I'm the founder of Black Girls Heal, and today we're going to talk about 3 ways to stay consistent in your healing journey. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. The things that we talk about here at Black Girls Heal are ways to help you work through relationship issues. So, work through issues of love addiction and love avoidance and love deprivation, and those are also issues that affect our relationships with ourselves. So, ways that we may put ourselves last, ways that we may stay in relationships that don't serve us, ways that we will avoid nourishing ourselves because we have low self esteem. We can have low self esteem while we're winning at life. We can have a great career, lots of people in our sphere realm of influence. We can be really killing it and still feel really low on the inside. And so, what I talk about here is I talk about how do you work through the trauma, what are steps, what are things that you can do to unlearn that and to demystify this healing process. Because I think at this point, we all know that we need to love ourselves. I think we all know at this point that this starts with trauma, with things that happened earlier. I think we all know at this point that we deserve to have all the love and care that we need, right? But what does that mean to actually put that into place? What does that mean practically to actually have a tangible change in our life and to see ourselves moving forward, right? What does it mean to actually do shadow work, outside of which is so helpful? So, this is not me knocking it, but outside of journal prompts and other things, like, are there any other things that I can do to help me learn different patterns and skills to interact with people? Because here's the thing, even when you are clear on what caused it and the why, and even when you're clear on the fact that you deserve to feel the emotions that are underneath it all, when you deserve to feel the happiness and the joy and the disappointment, and you're very clear on that, you still have decades worth of habits, of reflexes, of things that you just subconsciously do that make sabotage the progress. So you're in this healing process. You know that you want to have healthy relationships. Let's say you struggle with love avoidance. So that's when you put up walls and you try to keep people in this push pull kind of thing. Like, I want people close, but I really don't want you close. Um, um, Joe Short says this has been the hardest journey ever. Yeah, it's super hard. So let's say you're working on your love avoidance. And so okay, I need to open up and I need to let people in and I need to be more available to healthy people, and then you start to do what you think you're supposed to be doing, and you may self sabotage it. You may start to test people. You may push people away, but not realize you're pushing them away until it's too late, right? You may have a hard time letting yourself relax and rest into the relationship. And so, your body has been attuned for decades of your life to protect yourself. So it doesn't happen automatically. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen just because you want it to. Sometimes we can really kind of want to will it into being and just declare our openness, but it takes practice, y'all. It takes practice for us to start to build comfort and start to build openness and start to build self forgiveness, learning how to forgive ourselves, learning how to not stay in the past and counting the years that it could have been different and counting the months and thinking about past relationships and being like, well, that could have been the one, or I was so stupid, or I feel so embarrassed, or I feel so alone. Learning how to be in the moment instead of worrying about the future or sad about the past, that takes practice. And so, all that to say, those are the things that I talk about here on this platform and on our podcast and in our programs and in my coaching. And so, welcome. If any of that applies to you, welcome. What we're going to be talking about today is 3 ways to stay consistent in your healing journey, because it is so, so easy to get discouraged with everything that I just said, right? Like, I talked about the roadblocks. I talked about basically not knowing if you're actually making progress, right? Or, it's really hard sometimes to see the baby steps that you're making and actually count them to be real change, to give yourself credit, or because especially if you're used to false starts, like, let's say you try to work through low self-esteem or relationship issues before, and you think you're making good ground, and then you go and you revert back to negative relationships or trauma bonded relationships or codependency or something like that, you can think this is going to be just like before. And what's the point, right? Or feeling the emotions and feeling the heaviness and feeling all the things that come that have brought you to this point gets very heavy and it gets very overwhelming. And so what I want to talk about today are some things, 3 ways for you to stay consistent in your healing journey. And stay patient. That's a bonus one. That wasn't even on my list. But I guess someone needs to hear that. It's really important for you to be patient with yourself in this process. I'm going to say it again because it's really hard, especially if you're a type A person like me, especially if you can be a perfectionist, especially if you are tired of being tired, right? If you are tired of this being something you have to keep coming back to, that motivation, that internal sense of like, I'm going to do this and dedication can also ease into being impatient with yourself and impatient with the process, and which leads to feeling very discouraged. And so I want you to know that every single step that you take, every single time that you decide to change your thought, even if you already acted on an impulsive thought, even if you already said what you didn't want to say, or if you're someone who's working on showing up with your voice, you didn't say what you wanted to say, and you let someone like take advantage of you or something, every time you have a correcting thought after that, that is progress, because that is something that the you a month ago, a year ago wouldn't ever be able to do. And that is huge. Again, you know, changing and growing and evolving takes time. And for you to give yourself the gift of time, you have to give yourself the gift of patience and give yourself the gift of grace. If that makes sense, let me know in the chat. Put a heart in the chat and let me know that that makes sense. That was our bonus one for the beginning. Welcome for those of you who are joining us. I missed a comment way at the beginning, so I'm going to back up. Prince Weatherly said, "Hi, Sheena. It's been a minute for me. Thank you for your wisdom and guidance. We all need this." You're so welcome. Thank you for always being so faithful. You're always on the lives. You're always being so supportive in the DMs and everything. So thank you for being you. Um, let's see. Rose from Concrete. Hey, girl, said, "I've been doing that. I hate that for myself, especially when you throw sexual abuse in the mix." Yes. So I have talked a little bit. I don't really go into detail about sexual abuse, even though it is something that, unfortunately, a good, I don't want to say majority, because I think probably majority in some, I'm going to just own it, especially for those of us who are here in this space, whether or not it is direct sexual abuse, whether or not is the emotional enmeshment, and so being um, a partner, like an intimate partner emotionally, and all the emotional incest and things that goes into that, whether or not no one actually touched you, but they groomed you and they psychologically put and did a lot of things to you. Sexual abuse um, makes what's already hard even harder and even more devastating, right? And it can make you afraid to be in your body. So I talk so much about being grounded in your body and being in connection to your body. And that could be one of the last things that you want to do. Some people completely shut off and numb out by running. So by staying busy, by doing all these other things to avoid being in your body. Some other people numb out through addictions, through sleeping all the time, through even having sex with multiple people, multiple partners, to try to, disassociate and disconnect from what sex has meant from you in the past. It's just so nuanced. And so I just want to validate that, yeah, like this work is hard, and sexual abuse for sure adds even more complexity to that. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for the hearts. Yes, it makes it very hard. This isn't what I was going to talk about today, but I wonder if I need to pivot, especially because it's one of the points. For those of you who have struggled with sexual abuse, what is it that you have done or that you are doing to work through it? And have you found it to be helpful? I'm just curious. And I will get back to our main topic today about 3 ways to stay consistent in your healing journey. But something is just telling me just to ask that question. And I'll wait a moment just because I know that there's a delay and I know that people have to type. And um, I don't know if any of y'all are slow finger typers like me, but when I have to tell, when I'm doing a live or when I'm at somebody's live and I want to like share a question, like I be trying to type so fast before they move on to the next topic. And it doesn't always work out. So sometimes I just have to sit on it and wait. So AB says something that she's been doing is praying and counseling. So in therapy, you're specifically working on sexual abuse, or are you going to therapy just for a whole host of issues? Um, because, and the reason why I'm asking that is because I think especially if you have a clinician that is uncomfortable with talking about sexual trauma themselves, or there are other issues that are more tangible right now. Sometimes talking about sexual abuse, like, is acknowledged, is talked about, but it's not really um, talked about in depth, right? Like, it's easy. It's kind of easy sometimes to reference it, like saying, I know that you struggle with trusting other people because you had this type of neglect and this type of neglect and then you're sexually abused, but do you ever have sessions? And this is for everybody, anyone who can relate to this. I'm just asking, um, but do you have sessions that actually focus on that? Watt says therapy and journaling, getting back into my body and feeling safe. Okay, awesome. I've done breath work and mushrooms to help just get the trauma out of my body and viewing my situation from an IFS model. Awesome. Is it safe if I choose not to talk about because they died from cancer a few years after the abuse? Um, so is it safe if I choose not to talk about it? So you get to decide what's safe for you first. You get to decide what you need and what you're ready for and what you want. No one can force you, and no one should try to force you to talk about or do anything that you don't want to, sexually, emotionally, financially, spiritually, or otherwise. What you need is sacred and that belongs to you. So if you feel that you are not at a place or you're not ready to talk about something that happened to you or something that you're going through, then you get to decide when you're ready to make that jump, because um, because there is like work and next steps that come with that. There is, as much as there's the promise of release and relief from working through these things, there's also the initial problem of having to look at it and work through it. So that's the first thing. However, the first part of your question, though, it says, if it's safe, is it safe if I choose not to talk about it because they died from cancer a few years ago? So what I make up, and this may not be true, but what I make up is that the story I make up around that is that maybe you don't want to talk about it because you don't want to sully their memory, or because they died from cancer, you feel some guilt about, you know, downing someone who died in such a in a sad way, and not wanting to bring it up and just wanting to move on. And um, when I hear that, if that story resonates, and if that doesn't resonate for you, for anyone else who may be picking up a part of this, what I want to say is, as survivors, it's important for us to not adopt and personalize shame and blame that doesn't belong to us. The person who did the offense, they're the ones that should be owning all shame and all blame for what happened. They are the ones who have tarnished their name. They are the ones who have left a legacy of abuse. That is on them. That has nothing to do with you or what you have caused, or what is anything that's your fault. What happened to you should not have happened, and the blame is fully on them. If there's a part of you that wonders if you can outlast the impact of this abuse on you, and thinking, well, they're already dead and gone now, Maybe I got my justice in some type of way because they're no longer here. I don't have to worry about them anymore, especially if they're a family member and I saw them at events or like a family friend or something. So I don't have to worry about them crossing our paths. To the point that someone made earlier, sexual abuse gets into our psyche. It gets into our skin, into our bones, into our body, into our nervous system, gets into our mind, and it stays there and it lingers there. And we may find ways to kind of move through life and cover it up, but it's still there, right? Like this person passed a few years ago, and this is still a question that comes to mind for you to ask during the live, right? And so, is it safe for you to not talk about them? I would wonder about the impact that it does to you to continue to push this down. If this is something that you want to work through and to get out and to work through, is this emotionally safe for you to continue to try to dismiss it versus be free of it, is what I would throw back to you or give back to you. Watt says yes, also talking about it in intimate spaces with others who went through it, the empathy and understanding really helps. Yes, y'all have heard me say a million jillion times, because it's true, because it's backed up in studies, that healing in community heals you multiple times faster than individually. When you go to group therapy, if you're someone, especially in this type of topic where we're talking about sexual abuse, if you're going to group therapy with other survivors, with other people who've worked through it, like, not only are you learning skills and tips and tools and you're getting it out, but you're seeing other women and you're seeing their faces and you're feeling their support and you're feeling their love and you're feeling their non-judgment, you're feeling their acceptance of you. That also goes deep into your bones. That goes deep into your psyche. And so that's why, if you follow me any amount of time, I am so pro let's get together. Like from the beginning, when I even started first coaching, I have always been, let's heal together in a community, because you move faster. So you can move so much faster when you have other people who are in the same space with you going through it. It's so much different. I remember when I was still like working through the beginning symptoms of my love addiction and my love avoidance and, sexual addictions and porn addictions and this other stuff. And I would try to talk to friends and loved ones who didn't struggle with those things. They loved me. They were securely attached, but they never quite got it. You know, they could only give me so much validation before they would go straight into, well, just stop, or, think positively, or love yourself. Like, they couldn't connect to why this was so hard for me. And it left me feeling, even if it wasn't their intention, shamed, judged, alone, broken, right? And so once I got around other people who spoke the same language and felt the same way, I was like, oh, I'm not crazy. Oh, I am okay. Oh, there is hope for me. There is a way for me to feel better. So, y'all, community does so much more than you doing it on your own could ever do. But when your background and history is only having people who use your hurts against you or judge you, or they come and then they go, I can understand why there's so much resistance sometimes to getting started, or not even knowing where to start, which is why I really try to provide the group containers here. Hey Monique, I was going to email you because you and Raven I didn't get to follow up with at our mixer, and because there were people there, I was trying to make my rounds. So I'm going to try to email you. But hey, girl, hey, good to see you. Um, let's see, y'all are talking in between each other, sharing tips. See, right now, y'all are in the chat, talking to each other, supporting each other. See, that's what I'm saying. AB said, how do you get out your body? But you were talking to someone else. I want to see what other folks have said. Watt says, of course, it's easy for someone to say who hasn't gone through it. Melinda says, praying for it right now. I've stopped going to therapy. I'm not sure if it's the area I live in or what, but for some reason, some therapists have normalized different things. It only frustrates me. Yes. So that's one of the downfalls. It's not a downfall. It's one of the things that when you're looking for a therapist, to keep in mind that it really is like dating. So those people who have found their therapist, they will tell you how they love their therapist 10 toes down. Like, they're in it for as long as they need to be in it because they found their person. But getting to that place, sometimes you have to try out different people. And to your point, they're also humans. And so they may be projecting their own limitations onto you. If it's someone who is not trained in sexual abuse, if it's someone who's gone through sexual abuse themselves, um, and they don't really see it as that bad, which just is wild to say that, but I know that that's true, especially when we think about just the generational trauma in the Black community and how, depending on the age and the generation of the therapist that you've gone to, how that may influence them and the training that they've gotten or have not gotten. And so, even though you have not been able to find a safe space for yourself yet, I am happy that you were in tune with your emotions to know that where you were going was not supporting you. Because I've heard a lot of stories of people who have been injured by the therapist that they've gone to, um, because they come very vulnerably and the person, you know, does whatever it is they do or says whatever it is that they say, especially in the realm of like love addiction and sex addiction and stuff like this. A lot of times some of the barriers and bias that I had to work through when I first started coming into this space, and telling other therapists and telling other clinicians and telling other coaches what I did, and I talked about this, they'd be like, love addiction. Okay. And they would like have their face where you would like feel this energy. And so the way that that can manifest in the therapy room, is you're talking with your therapist about someone that you're going to stay away from, or a behavior that you're going to stop doing because you're doing it addictively and you're doing it to self-soothe. And your therapist gets tired of it and they give you a tough love approach. And they're like, we talked about this and you need to be committed. And if you're not committed to therapy, I can't help you. And they start to kind of hold hostage the therapeutic relationship and they hold hostage the therapeutic warmth. And there are some situations that we are taught that as therapists, to leverage that, just to be honest. But in those situations, when your trauma is acting out because it's trying to find a safe space, that is not the right time for a therapist or a clinician to leverage that. But someone who is not aware about intimacy disorders and love addiction and trauma is not going to know that, right? And they may just add themselves to the list of people who've abandoned you and rejected you without even realizing it. So, I did group therapy with other 18 to 21-year-olds who went through similar situations, and it helped more than I could have imagined sharing space with my peers at the time. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yes, I do intend to search for a better fit. Community is everything. That is right. So true. Once a child, I've been through a good 8 to 9 therapists in the last decade. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I went to therapy on my own, but I never knew that healing community provided so much growth. Yes, it does. It does. It does. It does. Um, so for me, the breath work has been helping during the sessions. I'm able to cry, shake, yawn, or just feel lighter. If I notice I'm able to relax more during sets, look up Peter Levine. Awesome. That's what I was looking for. So here's what I'll say, and then I'll get back to the topic. So, oh, you're a different Monique. I thought you were the Monique I saw at the mixer. I'm so sorry. Your profile picture looks like her, but let me focus, Sheena. Focus. This ADHD is getting there. I'm gonna get back to the topic of today, which we're talking about 3 ways to stay consistent in your healing journey. For those who are just joining, we have been talking about healing through sexual abuse and some of the hurdles that have come up with that. So, healing community is huge. Finding a therapist who knows what they're doing, who will also focus on sexual abuse recovery with you, and then not just be like what's the word? Just like a little point that they skip around, but the body work, because the trauma happens in your body, in your nervous system, learning how to heal that. So yes, Peter Levine, looking up somatic experiencing, which is the model that he teaches as far as like therapy and body work and things like that. And basically, what it is in short is you notice what you're feeling in your body. You notice where the trauma or anxiety or fear or even joy or sensuality, whatever it is, whatever you're feeling in your body, and you notice where it's at and you feel into it which this all sounds like really like abstract, but it works. And so you notice where you feel it in your body. And a lot of times, especially if you struggle with sexual abuse or trauma or just like numbing out in any kind of way, a lot of times you don't feel anything. So your therapist or your body worker can see when we start talking about this topic, all of a sudden your legs start shaking, or you're sitting still and now you're fidgeting with your fingers, or you start scratching behind your ear, and you don't know any of this is happening because you're so disconnected from your body. And so you start to build a reconnection with your body and you start to feel where these things are. And because whenever you have trauma that happens to you, emotional, mental, physical, sexual, or whatever, any type of trauma, your body is built to protect you. So if your body is not able to protect yourself, your body remembers it. So let's say you're a 3 or 4 year old and you have a parent, we'll get out of sexual abuse for a moment. You have a parent who like yells at you and they're like, they're big, they're towering over you, and they're like, just like going at you. You as a child, you may have been frozen like this, and you may have like been looking up in fear. And so to get through life, we have all these like thousands of these little moments that we may not have been able to advocate for ourselves or show up for ourselves or whatever. And our body remembers. Our body remembers being in this fearful place. And so when you start to have incidents that take away your sense of safety or take away your ability to feel comfortable or say what you want to say, your body may start to tense up, right? So I'm talking to someone, let's say now I'm an adult, right? This happened when I was 3 or 4. Now I'm an adult and I'm in a situation with a coworker who like reminds me subconsciously of a parent or a caregiver, like they have that type of energy. And so now when they're talking, they come and talk to me now, like every time they come, I'm like this, right? Like I'm looking at you, like my face is calm, but my body remembers, right? And so the therapy is about you learning how to release those things out your body so that your body can be free and not be stuck in fight or flight mode, either all the time or most of the time. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So I hope that was a good tangent for those who needed it. And for those who joined us a little bit later, you can go and watch the replay. But yeah, something just told me to go down that path. So I hope that helped those who needed it. Monique says, thank you so much for doing what you do. I listened to your last podcast about it being okay to feel good and retraining your body. Awesome. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm actually here in Arizona. I wish I was in Texas to see you. I experienced a lot of trauma over the past couple of years, but you have such a great heart and excellent tools. Thank you, Boo. I really appreciate that. Oh, y'all are so sweet. Well, you're very good and makes so much sense. Awesome. I'm so great. I'm so great. I'm so grateful. You tell me I'm so great. But thank you, everybody. And all those comments came together in one thing. Um, I may be in Texas and you're in Arizona, but we can still work together. So remember, my recovery school program is where I help women every day with all the things that I'm telling y'all. These are the exact things that I talk and support women through all the time in my recovery school programs. So would love for you to join me. You can check it out. You can get started immediately and go to recoveryschool.com. And we work through all these issues and reteach all the habits to learn how to have healthy relationships as a recovered love addict, to break the patterns of love addiction, to stop being love avoided and to be love available, to start taking care of yourself and heal these symptoms of low self-esteem. That's what it's for. That's what my mission in life is to do. So therecoveryschool.com. All right, let's get into the topic. All right, first thing that you can do to be more consistent in your healing journey. If you're ready, go ahead and put a heart in the chat for me, please. Put a heart in the chat for me, please. Please drop some hearts for me if you're ready for step number 1 to be consistent in your healing journey. If you have been struggling with roadblocks, if you've been struggling with mental issues that have been keeping you stuck, if you've been feeling discouraged, if you have been feeling confused, if you have been feeling like, what is the reason that I'm doing all of this for? That's what we go to talk about. All right. Thank you for the hearts, ladies. All right. The first thing that I want to share with you, I gave y'all a bonus one about being patient with yourself, which is also at the beginning of the live for y'all that watch the replay. The second one is to allow yourself to pivot. Now, I bet y'all weren't expecting me to say that. Allow yourself to be able to stay consistent in your healing journey. Allow yourself to pivot and change directions. A lot of times, what can happen is we will get into whatever we're trying to heal from. So let's say we're someone who has a history of broken relationships, and we're someone who's single. So we're saying, okay, I need to work on my relationship health and learning how to date better or be better, choose better, whatever that might be. And along the way, as you're getting clear on like where all this stuff comes from, all of a sudden you start to remember that one of the incidents of emotional neglect that you have been trying to heal from is that you grew up with your maternal grandmother, and she was practically the one that raised you. And your maternal grandmother, she kind of, she had issues with harshness, and she had issues with being soft, and so she took care of you, but she was mean. She wasn't really nurturing and cared for you. And so you start to come up with more memories about that, or you start to come up with some resentment that you thought you had worked through. And you'll talk about it a little bit, but you're like, you know what, I'm here to focus on the fact that I got John in my DMs, and I got narcissist Harry that's trying to talk to me, and I have my mama who's trying to get money from me, but the stuff with your grandmother keeps coming up. I want to encourage you that whatever is in front of you, whatever feels like it's calling out to you, to allow yourself to pivot to focus on that. Because a lot of times, the thing that is really top of mind for you, even if it seems small, even if you're trying to rank and prioritize what's causing the biggest fire in your life and the biggest chaos in your life, and you think that this is something that is pretty minuscule, a lot of times this is what's actually provoking everything else. So if I'm going to use this made up example, of how like this issue with your maternal grandmother can be affected, all of that. So because of the love and support that I needed from my maternal grandmother that I didn't get, and the ways that I learned how to deny myself, and the ways that I learned to get quiet, that is what makes it easier for narcissist Harry to keep getting a second chance, because it just falls right in line with me being quiet. And the guy in the DMs who is trying to get at me, but I'm not sure about, all these red flags that I'm like, well, I'm just going to keep him on the side for entertainment, just in case I get bored, but I'm not really going to give him, any attention. But you're keeping them for a source of validation because you didn't get that love and support from grandmother. And then, mama who's asking you for money, you've learned to be of support to people because grandma didn't give you a lot of attention. Grandma didn't really love on you. And you had to kind of earn your spot or find other people. And a lot of times the way that you did that is to be a tool, to be a vessel for them, and to be used. And so when mama comes, another mother figure, potentially, who can come and love you, you're going to do whatever you need to do to be in her. All of this starts with grandma. Make sense? Spot on, right? And so sometimes again, what we think is not that big of an issue is the big issue. And a lot of times that's the big issue, because not even because, let's say, it's actually the source of all this trauma, but it's a symptom of us denying and not being in touch with what we actually need and what we want. If our trauma is to always repress the things that happen to us and to tell us that what we need and what we want is not that big of a deal, or to find other solutions and alternatives, step one is to start to pay attention to our hearts, to start to pay attention to our intuition, to start to pay attention to those deeper leanings. Make sense? Let me know if that makes sense. Monique says deep. Wow. Yes. Let me know if this is clicking for y'all. Okay. Good. Good. So, so after patience, after being willing to pivot, we really need to pay attention to our intuition, to help us stay consistent in our healing, because then you will actually feel like you are making ground, and you won't feel like you have to continue to gaslight yourself that everything is okay when it's not, you know, and actually help yourself move forward. Okay. All right. Step number 2. If y'all ready for number 2, drop either a heart or a 2 in the chat. A heart or a number 2 in the chat. Let me know. Thank you for those who are joining. If you're just joining, hi, my name is Sheena. I'm the founder of Black Girls Heal, and I help women heal from love addiction and love avoidance to become love balanced and love available and act and receive love nourishment. And we're talking about 3 ways to stay consistent in your healing journey. So thank you for the hearts. Number 2 is to stay consistent in your journey is you need to schedule time for your healing. Schedule time for your healing. Oh, so how do you schedule time when we're basically, all day, every day, we're working through our thoughts and our emotions and we're showing up for ourselves. So what does that mean? Does that mean like on Tuesday at 4, I set boundaries? Well, what it can mean is that whatever it is that you are working on, whatever tools or support that you are using to help yourself move forward, that you do have a sacred time, a set time every week that you use to do that work. So I know that if you're following me, I know if you're watching this video, you are someone who you're either doing therapy, you got books on Amazon or Audible, you have a special healing journey notebook. I know that you have something that you are doing. You have someone who you listen to on podcasts or on YouTube who tells you affirmations. I know you got somebody. I know you got something. I know everybody here has got that, right? And so what I want you to do is to have a set time that you put aside for yourself when you are going to invest and work in that healing thing. Okay? That you're going to invest time and energy wise. Why am I telling you to do this at a set time versus just, it's already incorporated in your everyday life, right? You're already kind of listening to things that are, working for you and everything. It's because it is very easy, especially when you're newer at this, and even if you're not newer at this, to put yourself to like cycle through moments of being like very, very like motivated. I'm gonna get this done and great. And then life starts to life and you start to neglect that. You start to give it less and less time. You start to get distracted. You binge the latest episode, latest season of Bridgerton, and like you're off kilter, like you do all these other things. And so something that I would hear, especially from students in my recovery school program, I think I have like a little ant or mosquito bite or something. Something I would hear from my students all the time is that it feels like so much, like there's so much I have to work on, and there's so much that I have to do. And with my eyes being open, I see how far I want to get to, and I'm excited that I feel like it's possible, but also I feel overwhelmed. And I'm really someone who's about doing baby steps. And instead of you feeling like I have to change my whole life, all 168 hours of the week, what if I say, okay, for 1 hour of the week, that's what I'm going to focus on this, and just trust that what I'm doing during this time, the journaling I'm doing during this time, the affirmations I'm doing during this time, if you're in one of my programs, the worksheets and, the videos that I'm watching during this time, that is going to plant the seeds and is going to be enough to flourish, right? That this is how I'm going to check off that I'm showing up for myself, right? Chandela says, yep, all of it. Hey, boo. Baby steps. Baby steps. And especially if you're someone who's busy all the time, if you're someone who has a full life, if you're someone who, you have kids, you have a partner, you have a job, you have hobbies, you want to eat, you want to sleep. This work is also really emotionally taxing. Sometimes if you try to wait until when you feel ready to do it, you won't. But then you have to battle with the fact that I really want to have change, but then I'm too tired to actually do it. And I rather, last night I could have wrote in my journal, but I laid in bed and ate hot Cheetos while I, watched something on TV. And like that shame and that guilt will play on you when really you deserve to rest. You deserve to have breaks. You deserve to not have to be focused every minute of your day and every minute of your week looking for reasons, looking for ways to self-improve yourself. Sometimes y'all, our our quest for self-improvement is really a fancy way to hide low self-esteem. So we are in an addictive relationship with self-help and self-development because we're trying to find a way to make ourselves be enough. We're trying to find a way to out trauma and out trigger ourselves to where we can be perfect. And so we keep trying to find the next therapist, the next coach, the next program, the next whatever to make it so that we are now spotless and blameless. And that's never going to be enough because that feeling of you feeling not good enough starts within. There's, you know, I haven't said this in a minute as I taught this stuff, but one thing that I used to say all the time is, you know, your healing is not about making you a better person. You've already been an amazing person. What you're healing, when you heal, you're stripping away all of the lies, the negative beliefs, the things people projected onto you, shame that doesn't belong to you, addictions that don't belong to you. You're stripping away all this stuff so that you can see the jewel and the treasure that everybody else can already see. So that you can see the amazing woman you have always been. And so until you're able to come from a place of, I know that I'm amazing, and all this stuff is just making it easier for me to sit into this, it's not making me amazing. I'm already amazing. I'm already worthwhile. I'm already worthy. And this is just this is taking away all the blocks that have stopped me from being able to embrace that and live in that, right? But sometimes, to my point, sometimes we can be on this journey um, trying to make ourselves better when we're already our dream woman. We're already the woman that we're called to be, right? And we just have to own it. Like that's the testament of our healing is owning that we already are everything that we want to be, right? Um, Making it happen says Jesus. Prince Weatherly says, I love that. See the beauty in ourselves. Absolutely. Shauna says, come on, preach, Sheena. Thank you, boo. Thank you, Renee. Okay, so step number 2 to be consistent in our healing process is to schedule time for ourselves, and don't try to make it really big and make it, if you're someone who this is kind of hard for yourself, if you're someone who also struggles with ADHD like I do, and, sticking to routines can kind of be hard for you, don't try to make it like this big impressive, overwhelming task. Don't try to set aside every Monday afternoon because chances are you're going to need that afternoon to do other things. Start small. Start with 5 minutes. Start with 10 minutes. Start with whatever. And also you can make it loose and say, okay, at least one time today for 5 minutes, one time on Tuesdays for 5 minutes, I'm going to do this. And over time, you'll be able to pay attention to your body rhythms and know it's better for me to do it in the morning versus the afternoon. And allow yourself to mess up. Allow yourself to forget a scheduled time for yourself. Allow yourself to have to adapt and try to pivot and give yourself grace. The way that you treat yourself is also a sign of your healing. It's also a sign of how you feel about yourself. It's the kindness that you're able to give to yourself. Do you respond in moments when you feel like you're failing with moments of compassion and love and tenderness? Or are you the first person to, pile on? Are you the first person to criticize yourself and use that as evidence of how you are not enough? Okay. All right. So number 3, if you're ready for number 3, put a number 3 in the chat or drop a heart for me. A 3 or a heart, a 3 or a heart. And welcome to the ladies who are joining us. We're talking about 3 ways to stay consistent in your healing journey as you work through roadblocks and work through hesitations and fears and all that stuff. Okay, number 3, thank you. So number 3, we've actually already talked about it if you've been here this whole life. Number 3 is allowing other people to help you. Allowing other people to help you is the third way for you to stay consistent on your healing journey. You, as motivated as you are, and as consistent as you may be, and as dedicated as you are to this process, you can only see things through your own perspective. You are still limited by the path that you have been on. There's bias that comes in based on how you grew up, based on the things that were told to you, based on the things that were not told to you, based on the access to tools and resources that you've had, based on what you believe spiritually, based on what you have seen modeled in relationships and other people. You are limited still with being able to dream and see what's possible for you. So when you invite other people into the process, it opens up because now you have people from other perspectives, other people from other lifestyles, people who have gone through what you've already gone through, and where you may feel like there's not a solution, they've already had the solution and they've seen it to pass and they can help you on your journey. You, instead of you having to go through this and feel alone, and in your dark nights of the soul feeling like I'm so broken and I'm always going to go through this and there's something wrong with me, or well, I guess I just have to get ready to be alone my whole life. I guess I just can't, I can't really trust and depend on friends, and I can't really trust and depend on people, and da da da, and all the stuff you try to tell yourself when you're in your avoidance to try to make yourself not want relationships that never works. There are so many people who have been so hurt and so betrayed and have felt so alone that their next step to try to get better is to try to eliminate hope and try to eliminate optimism. And maybe if I expect the worst, maybe if I expect the worst and bet on the worst, then when the worst happens, I won't be disappointed. But you weren't built to even experience the bad in the first place. Like, you are built to have healthy relationships. You are built to have a healthy relationship with your body and your self-esteem. It is God's best for you. It is your birthright to be able to experience pleasure and joy and relief and peace. That's what your body is attuned for. Your body is not supposed to be stuck in fight or flight all the time, right? And so you trying to get your body to be used to being in struggle is never going to make the struggle easier. It's just going to make it even worse, and it's going to make you feel more depressed, and it's going to make you feel more alone. So when you are in this place and like you're feeling really low and you're feeling really defeated, it is so much harder for you to dig yourself out the hole by yourself. But when you have other people around to throw the lifeline into the pit for you, when you have other people who are there to say, hey girl, the ladder is over there, when you have other people who know out their way out the pit, and so they're like, they come down to hold your hand while you're in it, and hold space for you, while you figure out why you feel how hard this is, and they say, I know that this is hard, but I got you and I'm here for you. That is what makes the all this possible. That's what actually gives you hope. That's what makes you keep going. That's what makes you not give up and stop. You know, Trying to get yourself to a place where you allow yourself to be unhappy is choosing to give up. And I know that for so many of us, we've had to get to that place because this journey has been so hard, because we have had people who've disappointed us, because we have tried to have healers and invested in things that did not work out for us. And we just had to quit for the moment. And so I'm not knocking that. I know that that has been part of the chapters for most of us, if not all of us, right? And I know when you allow people into your heart, healthy people, available people, people who have solutions and are part of the answer and not part of the problem, they will help you move forward. One of the things that a lot of times, especially when I first started doing coaching, but I think I said enough, like as I've taught over the years, so that when people come into my teaching container, they already know this. But one of the first things that I used to always have to talk with women about is, especially women who are love addicts, is I would find that a lot of their friends would also be love addicts. So they would come and they would be talking about someone that they were, they were in a toxic relationship with or trauma bonded with, and how they were having a hard time getting out. And so they were trying to talk to their friends about it. But this friend was in an abusive relationship, and this friend was with a narcissist, and this friend was like, well, everyone's going to cheat anyway, so you might as well get yours. And this one, was just so, she was able to call it toxic, but she had such a low self-esteem so that she didn't really know how to speak life into her or speak life into you because she didn't believe in good enough for herself. So everyone in their circle, everyone in their tribehood was only feeding the problem. No one had the solution on how to get out, right? And so if you're in a community of people where everybody is used to the dysfunction, everybody is tuned in to the bullshit, everyone is like, well, that's just how people are, and that's just how we are, and that's just how life is. It's going to be really hard for you to be optimistic and hopeful and to believe that things can be different for you because you're surrounded, like every corner you look at, you don't see hope. And that's not your fault, right? Like you're surrounded by it. And so for you to be able to have something different, you got to step out. You have to step out and change your environment. What's the phrase that goes? Change your playground, you got to change your playmates or something like that, or change your playground and your playmates will change. You are going to have to move forward, right? AB says, oh my God. AB says, my friend group, I had to get out. Yeah. Sometimes you have to let people go. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you cut people off and like you don't ever talk to them anymore, especially if these have been people that you've grown up with, that you've known for years, and this is your first time even starting to try to find healthier people and healthier relationships. It's hard, especially as an adult. I've had a podcast episode with Danielle Ballard Jackson, who's a friendship coach. She's an expert, and she talks about it takes 50 hours of contact for someone to be an associate and 80 hours to be a friend. And so that's why, we think about when we went to school, it was so easy to make friends because you're around people for 50 to 80 hours. When you're working with someone, it's very easy to make work friends because you're around them all the time. But when you meet other adults out in the wild or at a mutual friends party or something like that, that's a lot of hours you got to put into work, like between brunch and hanging out and phone conversations and checking in with each other before you can actually have a real friend, And so sometimes it can feel easier to keep people that you may have outgrown around a little bit longer just as like comfort and cushion. But I'm telling you this right now for you to be mindful that what they are saying and their mindset does affect you and it does keep you down. And that's why it's really important to seek out groups of people who are healthy, groups of people who are on the right path. Again, bringing the full circle right back. That's why I work really hard to have group containers. That's why when people are like, hey, can I work on you 101? I'm like, you can get into this group. You can get into this recovery school because you need to have that accountability and that safe space with other women who have already healed, who are healing right now, who are saying me too, who are in your city and can go and have like lunch and brunch and coffee with you. There are so many women who have like flown to where each other are and like now they meet together and now they're like friends and they've been in each other's weddings. Like there are so many people who have built community in our recovery school container. And so that is an option for you too. If you are someone who is, just starting your journey, or you aren't just starting your journey, you're like, I need to have other people who get this and who can help me. That's what the recovery school is for too, and it's lifetime access. It's not a membership. I've gone back and forth, between like memberships and smaller things as well. But I want people to be able to feel like they have the time that they need to work through what they need to and the ability to come back home whenever they are ready for it. There's no one in my city who's in the Virgin Islands. I've had students in the Virgin Islands. I've had students who have joined who are in the Virgin Islands, who are in the UK, who are in South Africa. There was one person who was in Nigeria. There's someone who was living in China, but I don't think she's there anymore. And then, of course, all over the United States. So the person who is in the Virgin Islands is not an active student, I don't think anymore. So I think she's like, gotten what she needed. And so she's still in the community, but I don't think she checks notifications. But Yeah, but we have lots of students who are from the Caribbean. Like we gotta okay. Here's I don't okay. Here's what I want to say. Here's what I want to say. And this is not just for this program, I think in general. I think sometimes one of the first things I teach in the program is something called the 4Ds. And the 4Ds are the four things your mind will do to you when you are about to enact on great change. Even when it's great change that you want, that you've been praying for. One of the four things that your body will do is distract you because your body again is attuned to keeping you safe. So your body has been used to anytime you try to do change, anytime you try to get your hopes up, anytime you try to create something different, you get disappointed. Someone betrays you, you don't follow through with it. People who are supposed to be there for you don't show up. So your body, again, is attuned to the bullshit. And so your body is like, I know where this is going. So it will distract you. So a lot of times I will get women who will come into my container, super excited and happy, and then they feel all motivated and like, ooh, change is going to come, change is happening. And then they decide, okay, well, I'm going to go back to school. Like I have this really big program that I need to invest in, so let me do this. Or they decide they want to rearrange their whole house and redecorate their house. Or they decide that they want to go and travel and do other things. Or they decide that because they feel safe in this container, they can focus on taking care of themselves, which means not doing this work. And it's all a fancy way that your body will distract yourself instead of you focusing on what you need to do to take care of you. Another D is um, um, defensiveness. So sometimes you can hear things that are different than what you believe, and it can be very easy to take it to offense, especially if you're someone who struggles with needing to be in control and needing to be in charge, and you struggle with self forgiveness. To learn different things and different mindsets and different ways of looking at a situation, there may be a defense to try to protect the reasons why you did something because you're afraid if you look at maybe the mistake of it that that's going to mean something bad about you, but that's not true. But what came up for me when you were talking about are there people in this group, and I think it was just a general question, I don't think it was like a deflection, but sometimes we can look for reasons to not engage in the things that will work for us because subconsciously or consciously we are looking for the loopholes to make sure that we won't get disappointed. And so we're trying to disappoint proof ourselves from taking this big step. But here's the thing sometimes you don't learn that the boogeyman that you think is in the corner is actually not there until you get up and turn on the light. Like I can sit in my room in this darkness and see all the shadows and make up stories about what all the shadows are. And I can choose to stay in my bed and stay afraid and say, okay, if I get up, something's going to grab me. Or I can go and decide to turn on the light and be like, oh, that wasn't even there. But sometimes you have to do things afraid, right? There is not enough mental rehearsal and prepping that I can do if I struggle with opening up. There's not enough I can learn around what it means to be safe in relationships until I look at the person who I want to get closer to, and I look at them intimately and I tell them what I feel, and my heart is beating and my gut, it feels like there's a lump in my stomach, and I'm sweating and my leg is shaking. For me, when I get nervous, my feet start to sweat. So my feet start to sweat, and it's not until I tell that person what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling in the moment. And then I get the response that's one of safety and one of security and one of I accept you and I see you. That's when I stop being afraid, right? When I realize that the boogeyman that I've been creating, the monster that I've been feeding, is just fantasy. Like that's the real fantasy. And so, again, this is a longer tangent than I expected it to be, but for those of you who you have big things that you've been wanting to make a jump for, you need to make the jump afraid. Some things require discernment, some things require time, some things require you, checking all the influence, and some of the things you're trying to negotiate yourself out of movement and growth and evolving, and you need to do it afraid. Okay. Um, Natasha says, actually, I missed a whole lot of comments on YouTube. Oh my goodness. Y'all are having conversations over here, so I'm not going to read them all. But Natasha says, yes, you need community with other women. It could be a good way to help you on your healing journey. Yes, and that's from a fellow therapist. Thank you, Natasha, my LMFT sister. Monique says, I didn't realize how important healthy sisterhood is. Wow, it has been such a long time since I had community. Thank you, Queens. Yes, they're over here in the chat. Like they're over here loving on each other in a freaking YouTube chat. Like, this is what I mean about what happens when we come together in community. Allie B. For real says, woo, I needed to hear that. Awesome. I'm happy that came at the right time. Come on, frustration for distraction. Yes, 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 yes. This has happened with me and my guy, the defensiveness. Yep. It can be hard to be confronted with areas of growth, especially if you're someone where when people have told you things, they haven't meant it for your good. They've meant it for you to feel like crap. Then of course you're going to be skeptical. You're not going to be as willing to let things in, even with people that you trust, and that's okay. And I think that's also something that if you're someone who struggles with defensiveness, if you're someone who struggles with, I want to know what's going on, but also it's really hard, you have to be in relationships with healthy friends and with healthy lovers and healthy partners to where you unlearn that when someone gives you feedback, that does not mean that they're tearing you down. It doesn't matter how many times I tell you that, or your therapist tells you that, or an affirmation tape tells you that, or you journal it, until you have that living proof and that social confirmation that this is possible, that this is real, and you build that trust and security. That's what's going to bring it down. Okay. And of course, body work. We spent a lot of time talking about body work at the beginning. Body work is phenomenal, especially if you don't really have access to community right now. Body work is one of the things that I teach in the program. It's one of the things that I talk to y'all about openly here. Um, that can also help you deal with triggers as well. Prince Weatherly says self-distraction, defensiveness. I need the other two, Sheena. You're right. We just sabotage our own goals. Well, we've been talking for over an hour, and I gotta go do mom duty. So I'm gonna let y'all go for now. So maybe I'll come back and talk about it on another live. But yeah, but thank y'all for being amazing. I hope that this has been helpful. For those who joined later, we talked about recovering from sexual abuse as well at the beginning, and also being patient with ourselves. So those are things that you also want to hear about that you missed because you just joined us. The replay will be posted. It'll be posted on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And for those who are ready to take that jump, would love to have you in the recovery school, coming into my healing container with a wonderful community. Many of the women who y'all been talking with in the chat are already in that container as well. And so it's just a testament of what happens when we give the gift of accountability, of kindness, of showing up to each other and also to ourselves. And so we love to help you heal from the symptoms of love addiction, love avoidance, and love deprivation to make way for the love that you want, starting with your relationship with yourself. Okay, therecoveryschool.com is where you can learn more. And that's it for today. Y'all have a good one. I will see you in our next live.